Hey folks, welcome to verifiedinvesting.com. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here. Now in today's video, I want to take a look at the recent drop on Bitcoin, which tested the level that I gave you guys just yesterday. And so far that level is holding. That level is incredibly important if Bitcoin is going to head back to the all-time highs in the near term. In addition, we're going to look at Ethereum or ETH, Solana, and XRP and see what those charts are telling us. So let's dive right in here, folks, taking a look at Bitcoin. And what we can see right here, this is today's price action. So Bitcoin flushed all the way down, testing the 110,000 level, which, as we can see, is a major technical trend line. And again, once again, it bounced off of that line. So as a technician, if you're someone who follows the charts like me, this clearly shows us that as long as this level holds, you could bounce higher and potentially retest your upside all-time high and trend line that goes back to 2017. And for those of you that are new, this trend line, which connects this high to this high and this high, it's an absolutely remarkable trend line. Look at this. It goes back to this high here in 2021, bull market 2021, and it goes all the way back to the 2017 high, bull market high as well. So really, this is such a remarkable trend line because, again, to think about a trend line that goes back basically at this point 8 to 9 years, it is still a major level of resistance that we as technicians, we have to respect. Right now, it's varying degrees of pullbacks. We saw back then it was major cycle highs. But here we've had smaller pullbacks, smaller pullback, smaller pullback. But the question I would have is, at some point, are we going to get a break of this line and a much bigger move to the downside? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anyone knows. We all have our preconceived notions, but in technical analysis, you just don't know. What do we know? We know this level is major. 110,000, a break with confirmation below would likely send us all the way down to this next level of support, which again, we can draw this trend line right through here. And that would give us around the 92 to 93,000, maybe 94,000, depending on when it hits that up ascending trend line. But that would be your next technical level of support. I just want to show this too, folks, because essentially it's virtually, in fact, you could even argue that maybe the trend line should be right here. In fact, I think that's correct, because then what does this make it? It makes it a parallel line, right? You have this trend line here through these lows, and we should really bring it down just a tiny bit to those exact lows. So these lows to this low is then parallel to these lows. And that's where things start to make more and more sense, how everything in charts has symmetry to it. There's some sort of symmetry to it. In this case, parallel line to parallel line. So if this breaks, guess where we're going? Right down to this level here on the charts. Now, as long as we stay above, which we are currently, right? So if we zoom in, we're currently staying above this level. You can see it hammered on the level and is bouncing. Then in theory, you could trade back up. There'll be a little minor resistance at around 117 to 118,000. But if we get above that, we could retest the highs. And so from a bull perspective, what you're looking for is you need this level to hold and us to start to trek back to the all-time highs. From a bear perspective, you want to see a break with confirmation of this trend line. If that happens, you're getting a much bigger dip on Bitcoin. All right, let's flip over to ETH here. ETH, same thing, downside early, is bouncing back. You have this trend line from now, which is down sloping. But again, for me, I want to show you something that I'm kind of playing around with. So we have this. This is very cool, right? Because it goes here and actually, look at this. It goes like all the way back there. That is cool, folks. Wow, look at that trend line. That's an impressive, it's a parallel, right? So we talk about, and again, this is what I love telling you guys about, because markets, they seem random, right? And it's like, oh, well, today we crashed, or today we did this, or today there was a big bull move, or today we went sideways. And it seems very arbitrary to us as humans. But in essence, when you start seeing things that are parallel and how it's working as support and resistance, you start to realize that there's a function there. There's something there that is making poetry out of the charts. At least in my humble opinion, that's what we're seeing. And look at this. I mean, great example. This high and this high perfectly parallel to all of these lows. Look at this. I mean, this is remarkable. And all of these, this is the resistance, then it becomes support. And then look at when we had the crypto crash, look at where we went. We flushed and then we bounced. And so As a technician, again, I always try to speak. Remember, the charts are unbiased. Everything else is biased. You, me, we all have biases, whether we want to admit it or not. There's even if we don't know we have biases, there's always a bias there. Charts are not. And that's why I really do my best to just say, okay, what is the chart telling us? And the chart's telling us that we're basically trading now between this high and this low. In other words, this line and this line. And so there's little levels along the way, like you'll have resistance at 4,700 right here. You can see right here, there's some resistance there, then double top, and then essentially this area here. But this is the one that matters, right? That's the big one up there. And likewise, to the downside, your level is around 3640. All right, now if you break 3640, you're likely falling all the way down to this area around $2,700 to $2,800 on Ethereum or ETH. If you can hold here, you should be able to track and maybe head back up to this 5,000, 5,100 zone. All right. So really, again, Bitcoin is holding on to a major level and bouncing. We've seen ETH now doing the same thing. Both of these are holding on as best they can. All right. Taking a look at Solana, Sol here, you can see here's an upsloping trend line, beautiful upsloping trend line right here to the upside, and that catapulted us to hold this pivot low, pivot low, pivot low on Sol. And then ultimately what we've done is we've come back in a little bit, but really this is a little different. This to me would be more of a wedge pattern that I'd be focusing on. Why? Well, ultimately what we have here, folks, is if we look at this here and we go to this, we have a very defined pivot top to the pivot top here. And so that gives you your resistance up there. Then you have pivot low, and pivot low, right? So all of these levels along here. And essentially what we're watching for is which way breaks in which direction, right? So do we go up here and break out? Okay, if we break out, you're going all the way up to 300. All right, that would be my upside target on a breakout. Now, if we don't break up, right? If we don't break up and we come back in, now you're starting to talk about further downside where we could, if we break this 175, 177 level here and confirm below, we're likely headed down to this level here around 130, and potentially if we break that down to $100. But just like Solana or just like Ethereum, just like Bitcoin, these are range bounds factors. So each one, whether it's a parallel or it's a wedge pattern, we're still watching to see which way these things break. And right now they're trading within. Now, they're wild moves within them. I mean, like, look at the move on Bitcoin last Friday. I mean, incredible drop, but it still held the level, the 110 level on Bitcoin. That is the key. All right, lastly, quickly taking a look at XRP. Amazing flush on the crypto crash on XRP. Look at where it went down to, guys. I mean, if I had been quick enough, I would have been buying like crazy here. I mean, this is such a great technical support. Look at how you had all these dips into this level over and over and over again, and then it rallied up. And then on the crypto crash, where did it go? Right there. And look at the bounce. I mean, just an incredible, incredible bounce. Now, what you're watching for is you've broken below. See, this was a wedge pattern. We broke down, and look at what happened, by the way. We were just talking about how when you break outside of a range, you get a massive move in that direction. Well, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Here you broke below, and look at the flush. Now, granted, it was the crypto crash there from Friday, but still, it shows you how big the drops can be when you break these major levels. The point being is we've rallied back. This becomes resistance with this. Now, this level here becomes resistance. So anywhere between 273 and 291, this is now going to be a ton of resistance because it broke. Granted, it didn't confirm, but the two levels combined still make up a pretty sizable resistance point on the charts. All right, so that's your resistance. Now, your support would be exactly what it shows back here, right? So you have all of these levels here, which we tested. So right back here, your buy level, if this ever dips to about this $1.88, that would become your buy level with a tight stop. If it ever confirms below here, you got to exit. All right, now on a breakout, if we ever get above this level here and confirm, above 290, 291 and confirm, this thing rips up probably back to your previous major pivot high up there. All right, so the idea here is, as a technician of the charts, what we're trying to do here is understand where are the key supports, and if we break that support, where do we go? Right? Think about it like if you're stamping on the floor and you break the floor, you fall all the way to the next floor down. Like it's a vertical fall. And you can see that with XRP. XRP broke that and it fell all the way to the next floor. Frankly, it did. Massive drop on that. And vice versa. If it breaks above the level, well, where is it going to the upside? Where can it rocket ship up to that's going to take it to those levels? So hopefully you guys have found this useful as I do technical analysis and I showcase what I've learned over nearing 27 years now of trading. It's stuff that I wish I knew when I was a newer trader. Heck, I really do. I would be a lot. I mean, think about the compounding of profits if I hadn't had years and years of losses. And by the way, don't feel bad if you're in that position because you're just on the same course as I was on. I just have stuck it out the whole time, whether you call me insane or not for doing that. But in any case, these are the paths. And if I can help you shorten your path, then that's my goal here at Verified Investing, guys. All charts, no BS. The chart is the chart. It has no narratives and no hype. It just is what it is. You guys have a good one. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care.